Okay, so I'd like to open this meeting at 6:02 p.m. And I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. And the first line of the agenda is to reorganize and vote for a chair of the policy committee. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Emily.
Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Emily as the chair of the policy committee?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Emily to vote in a vice chair, and I will be back.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Do you mind if I
Please
take
do.
this? Okay, great. Okay. This is the finance committee. We don't need that. As a chair, I would nominate Sam Stockwell as vice chair.
Second.
Second by Ryan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I guess I should have asked for discussion. Sorry. You'll have to forgive me.
I think we're pretty small tonight, so I think that'd be okay.
Yes, I think so too. Are there at this time, any additions or changes to the agenda? Thanks, Ron. I might add a 6.1.a under review the charges and responsibilities. Maybe we could talk about like board norms under there. Maybe that's under our responsibilities, under the scope of responsibilities. Is there any appetite to have a 6.1.a?
Second.
Nominated by Ryan. I need a second.
Sorry, was that not a motion?
I can't make motions. So is there a motion
Oh,
to
I agree.
Okay.
amend the agenda? Yeah, here we're gonna
So
we're gonna get through
Okay.
this. Okay, great. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I guess if we all vote, we don't have to. It's approved. Wonderful. Is there any public comment for items
Sorry.
not on the agenda? Yes, sorry, Ryan.
It's okay. Talk without a motion first. We're being all informal, right? For a small committee. Didn't Joanne ask us to move the approval of the minutes for this meeting from this agenda?
Yes, I am on item 4, public comment. You're just one step ahead.
No, I thought that was a change to the agenda. Sorry.
That's okay. We can,
Okay.
I think we could take it under approval. We can.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to change the agenda again. Okay. Any public comment for items not on the agenda tonight? All right, hearing none. The next section is approval of minutes. Because our board member who was last on the policy committee, Jeff, is not here, I'm going to ask that we postpone the approval of the February 11th, 2026 minutes until our next meeting.
Should I second that idea?
Or you could give me a motion to postpone. So moved.
I move. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Sam, second by Ryan. Any discussion? Yes, Ryan.
This is being postponed to the 8th of June. Is that?
Yes, to our next meeting. June sometime.
Okay.
June 8th. Probably not June 8th. It will probably be it'll be the 3rd Monday of the month. Is that the 8th? Can't be. Yeah.
Point of clarification was, I felt like if there was an initial plan for it to be the third Monday of the month, and then that got changed to every 3 weeks. Is that, am I misreading the
Oh my
history here?
I
gosh.
don't remember.
I hope we are not meeting every 3 weeks. I hope that we are meeting the third Monday of the month for our committee meetings. That's the schedule. I assumed. Did you see something else written down?
I think
It's
that was
quite
the
possible.
email that I got from Tina. Was that? Let me check my email.
Well, Ryan, I think the intent is for us to meet on the third Monday, the committees to meet once a month
Okay.
on the third Monday of the month. I think I also remember seeing that and being like, I don't know. So I don't think we're going to meet every 3 weeks. I think we're going to meet every
Third Monday.
once a month on the third Monday of the month, barring any
Okay.
rescheduling. Like we might take July off. Usually, sometimes the board, well, only one time so far have we done that, but
Okay. That's what we're thinking.
that I think is the intent.
Okay.
So if there was other language, we can definitely clarify that with Tina if you want to send that to me.
Yeah, it's just like the actual meeting invitation says BUUSD policy committee meeting at every 3 weeks.
Okay. Yes, I think that is a clerical error. That would be a lot of meetings.
Okay.
Right, Sam? Is that your understanding of
That's
our
my
committee
understanding.
meeting
The
structure?
This committee meets once a month.
And I think we said we would try the third Monday. Okay. So that was discussion of the minutes. And now, is there any other discussion before we vote on moving the approval of the February minutes to our June meeting? Okay.
Not for me.
I'll close discussion and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is passed. Current business, 6.1, review the charge and responsibilities of the committee. I know we talked about this at our last board meeting. I think if you don't mind, I'll just read it into record. The policy committee charge, establishment and authority. The policy committee is established by the school board pursuant to its authority under 16 VSA 5631 to adopt, amend, and enforce policies for the governance of the school district. The committee serves in an advisory capacity. All policy actions remain the responsibility of the full board. Purpose. The policy committee supports the board in maintaining a coherent, legally compliant, and up-to-date policy framework that enables effective governance, ensures regulatory compliance, and advances the district's mission and strategic priorities. Core responsibilities. Number 1, policy development and revision. Again, that's 16 VSA 563(1). Draft, review, and recommend new and revised board policies. Ensure policies are clearly written, actionable, and aligned with board intent. Maintain consistency across the policy manual. 2, legal and regulatory compliance. Monitor changes in state and federal law, State Board of Education rules, and guidance from the Agency of Education. Ensure district policies reflect current statutory requirements, e.g. student conduct, harassment, equity, finance, safety. Coordinate with legal counsel and the Vermont School Board Association resources as appropriate. 3, policy review, cycle, and maintenance. Establish and implement a multi-year policy review cycle. Identify outdated, duplicative, or conflicting policies and recommend revisions or rescissions. Is that the right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Great. Maintain an organized and accessible policy manual. 4, governance alignment. Ensure policies clearly distinguish between board governance and administrative implementation. Avoid overreach into administrative procedures while providing clear direction and accountability. Align policies with board goals, strategic plan, and district priorities. 5, stakeholder input and transparency. Recommend when stakeholder input, staff, students, community is appropriate for policy development. Support transparent processes, including required warnings, readings, and public access. 6, implementation and monitoring. Recommend mechanisms for monitoring policy implementation and effectiveness. Request periodic administrative reports where policy compliance or outcomes warrant board oversight. This is about membership. School board members appointed by the chair, superintendent or designee, additional staff or advisors as needed, 2 community members as indicated by local procedures. At this point, we just have 1 community member. The committee meets regularly, typically monthly or as needed, to address policy priorities and statutory updates. Reporting. The committee reports all recommendations to the full board, including rationale, legal context, and recommended action. First reading, second reading / adoption, or rescission. The guideline for policy edits. Underlined text is language to be added. It's in the VSBA policy, but not in BUUSD policy. Strike through. Language needs to be removed. It's in BUUSD policy, but not in VSBA. Blue text. BUUSD's own language, not VSBA. Decide to keep or remove. Are there any questions about our committee charge? Do we want to have a discussion about any of these core responsibilities? To me, we're an advisory committee, so we are doing the work, helping the board do its work. Sam?
For research, do we go to the SBA or do we go to the, like, if we want to know, is there a policy for this in the state of Vermont? Do we do that research ourselves or do we ask the school to do that for us?
Usually we would make a request, I think, to Tina through in the superintendent's office to see that. Sometimes the research could require consulting with legal, which would be, the superintendent's responsibility. I think it would be totally appropriate for school board members on the committee to reach out to the SBA, but I think we should always coordinate that with the superintendent and or Tina, who's very knowledgeable.
Okay. And we don't have a minimum number of people that have to be on the committee. In other words, we can act as a quorum.
Yes, we are a quorum, the 3 of us. Yep, because there are 4 of us currently on the committee, 1 vacant seat. So I think the 3 of us are a quorum. Ryan?
Yeah, similar. Actually, that was a similar question. I was trying to figure out what the quorum is. So as I'm reading it, the school member is appointed by the chair. So that's 3 school board members. So I'm just calculating the number of seats. Superintendent or designee, that's 4th. Yes. Stop me if I'm wrong. Staff as needed, so 0. And then 2 community members is 2 more. So that's 6 seats. Or am I?
The
Not reading this
superintendent or designee is not a voting member of the committee. So they're there as an advisory capacity, and Joanne opened the meeting as a superintendent, and she's coming back to the meeting at the end.
Okay, so 5 is the total size of the
Yes.
body.
Yep. Right now, 5. When I was first on the board 3 years ago, we had 2. The superintendent came and the principal of Spalding came, so we had 2 administrators as on our committee. But I think our staff is feeling pretty maxed out, so we're not really asking them to take on more committee roles at this time. So right now, the committee is the board members are Jeff, Sam, and myself. The member is Ryan, and there is a vacant seat for a Berry City community member. So the 3 of us are a quorum.
Second question is, when there's reference to a policy manual, is that a document or a manual that exists outside of the website? Like,
Hard copy?
well, just like, what is that referring to? Like, where is the manual?
The policy manual is a living document
Mhm.
that we use to keep track of our policies as they are being updated, as they are being rescinded.
Mhm.
That is, we can definitely ask Tina to get you access to that. I don't know if it's on the website.
It is.
Well,
It
all
is.
the policies
It
are on the
is.
website, but I don't know. Is that the same thing?
No, the policy manual is a separate document
That
that
is
tracks
also on the website.
that tracks all of our current policies, identifies where we are missing required policies. It helps us track all of the work that we're doing as a committee.
Okay. Do you know where that is on the website? Just.
I found it today.
Okay.
You go to the district site.
Mhm. That's under policies and procedures, but maybe that's not where it is.
Where I thought was district.
It's okay if you don't know. I just try to figure out what it's referring to. Thank you.
We can help you find it, Ryan,
Okay.
if you want to do it outside of the
Sounds
meeting,
great.
or we can just.
Sounds great.
But it's a living document that we use to track the progress of our policies.
Okay.
Any other discussion about our charge or for responsibilities? I think it's just important to remember that as a committee members, we're an advisory capacity, so we have no real authority to act outside of this group. We're a working group, and our job is to do the work of the board. So I think that would look what that looks like in terms of our work. Right now, we're in the middle of going through a policy audit through the BSBA. And so we're working through that, where they have identified what required policies we might be missing, where the language is different, what policies need to be updated. So I think that will become most of our work through the summer, and hopefully we can work through that. I know that previously, when Garrett was the chair, they were moving pretty quickly through it. I think they were doing 2 or 3 policies a month, which is very fast. So what that looks like in terms of work is that policies will come to us through Tina. She'll do the underlines and the strike throughs and edit it for us to review. We can look at that at our meetings. I think it's what the board is trying to do is make sure our policies are in alignment with VSBA as much as possible. And so we would recommend those for first readings and then second readings to the board. Does that make sense in terms of our, Sam?
I was just wondering if there should be a place in our charge that says to ensure that our policies are in the best interest of something like in the best interest of the children, that they're there to enhance the school to serve the children. I mean, maybe we don't need that, but
Yeah,
think it's a
maybe
good thing to
under
think
our
about it.
purpose, right? It does
Yeah.
say advances the district's mission and strategic priorities, and our mission and vision, right, is a rock solid education for. I had it memorized, but it's escaping me.
A rock solid education for a lifetime of discovery.
Lifetime of discovery. Thank you very much. Any other charges and responsibilities document discussion? Are you feeling good about?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So there's a. exactly what I'm talking about as I say this. There's a board procedure that's titled Board and Committee Operation Procedure. And it addresses committee meetings specifically, and it essentially says that any decision has to be by consensus. I believe that means unanimous consent. Is that the understanding, or?
Maybe this is a perfect time to segue into 6.1.a, which would be our committee norms and procedures, right? I have learned, I also thought that procedural document was correct, but I learned that that just hasn't been updated. The committees have moved into using Robert's Rules of Order where we vote. I wonder if in our group, for our purposes, that we could work through consensus and kind of move away. Going to Robert's Rules for small boards where we don't have to necessarily vote on every item. That's up to the committee. Sam?
There isn't a written process for each committee, like we must do it this way.
Really?
Okay.
I think we could maybe go to the board and make a recommendation that we'd like a chance to look at the board procedures and have a discussion about that procedure if we're really doing that, or if other committees are moving towards using Robert's Rules of Order. It is harder to work for consensus than voting, and so sometimes it's easier to vote than go into consensus. But yeah.
So the procedure says Robert's Rules of Order and consensus. So, but I mean, in my opinion, consensus doesn't necessary like that. Might make it feel people don't want to speak up or vote the way they want to vote because it would stall us.
What is your preference, to stay in motioning and voting?
I mean, yeah, I guess my preference is to stay with voting. That doesn't mean like formal Robert's Rules of Order, but just seems to me, yes, that would be the preference, is that we vote and majority vote, depending on the motion, is what prevails.
Okay.
I'm not married to that idea, just that is my preference if I'm being asked.
And Joanne, but can the superintendent break a tie if there's a tie and vote?
No,
The chair
superintendent
can.
can,
So that you're not like the mayor.
No.
no, superintendent cannot vote. Superintendent
We-
serves in service of the board.
We
There's
are
also-
discussing if we are following our board procedure from, what's the date on that? 2020?
January 2020.
That says committees work through Robert's Rules and consensus. And so we were just wondering what works best for our committee. If we're going to
Yeah.
motion and vote, or if we're going to work through consensus, or, you know,
think we
as a
need-
group, how formal are we
Do you want to
feeling?
be? Well, I think that's a great discussion to have. And you have the ability to make some decisions here, but legally, also actually, it was in your procedures that this is an advisory group. It's not a decision-making group. And yes, you have to operate under Robert's Rules, but if you're not a decision-making group, you don't make motions, you advise.
Okay. Okay. I think that means we could probably still take votes through the committee
Yes.
if we were feeling that was important to us as well.
Yep.
So sounds like we have a lot of flexibility to
You
kind
do,
of work
yeah.
within a structure that we agree with.
You do.
Are we kind of in agreement about what that structure looks like, or
I don't
we
have a
just,
strong feeling either
okay,
way. We're tiny and it's an advisory group. I think we can probably manage.
are we just going by the whim of the chair? Just kidding.
I think we kind of are going by the way we.
Okay. Ryan, how does that feel?
It feels fine. I'm a little bit confused about the idea of we don't make motions. We've already been making motions, so that's
In terms of decision. like
right.
you're
We
not-
can take action for the full board. I
Right.
understand that part,
Yeah.
but
That part is helping us move through our agenda.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's helpful for the structure of our meetings, to help
Okay,
us
but
move through the
if we're
agenda.
taking the we're making a decision as a committee, we're still doing that by motion.
You won't make a decision as a committee because that's not. what
Like
you-
a committee, for example, to recommend something to the board.
You just have
yes.
informal. Well, how do we feel?
Yes,
Are we going to do
yes.
that?
Yep, we can
Okay.
talk through those options. Yep, and then we can send it to the board for sure. Okay, great. That was our little 6.1.a.
Good.
Now we're at resolutions.
Could I, before you do the resolutions, because I'm going to go back to finance
Yeah.
for a minute, I'm going to recommend for your next meeting that you review a 23, 24, 25, and 26 as a recommended policy. Now, remember, we have already completed the required policies. Recommended would be your jurisdiction. So out of those 4 policies, you might say, we're not going to recommend that the board adopt a policy like this. We're going to recommend only 2 or 3, but it is your ability to say what you want to bring forward or not.
Right.
And then next time, what we would do is give you time to read it, and then you'd have the discussion about what you wanted to bring forward.
So we're talking about did you say 22?
A 23, right
Yep,
here.
Yep, these
23,
ones.
24, 25,
Yep.
and 26.
Yep.
One more thing, Ryan. The other thing I wanted to mention is that please remember, and this is an important component, that the policies we bring forward have already been vetted by the Vermont School Boards Association. It is not your job to change substantially those policies, because if you do, we're going to have to bring it to our attorney and spend money on it. That's not saying you can't, but the board already agreed that those policies have been vetted legally.
Mhm.
The language is consistent with, which is what the board wanted. But again, this board can make another different recommendation to the
The
full board.
committee. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
committee, yes.
Okay. Ryan?
Do you have a question?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
I believe I got the answer, but just since you're
Yeah.
here,
Mhm.
can I just clarify? The policy committee is meeting on the 3rd week of each month, not every 3 weeks.
Correct.
Okay.
It is the third Monday. That's right. The board meeting is the first Monday, the policy, all the committees are meeting on the 3rd.
Third Monday of the month. So we will meet monthly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be back.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think we need to take any action or do any voting. I think we're ready to move on to 6.2. Resolutions. At our last meeting, at our last board meeting, the full board voted to task the policy committee with drafting resolutions, any resolutions that came before the board to send to the VSBA. This is part of their legislative priorities, how they build their legislative priorities. Ryan, do you understand what the Vermont School Board Association is?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean,
Sorry
yes,
to put,
yes.
not to
In
put you
broad
on the
terms, I
spot,
understand
but, okay.
what they do. Yes.
So this is a way for member boards to try to participate and help with the VSBA's legislative priorities, and a way for us to get our voice heard too. We have tried before to pass a resolution from the full board, but it was unsuccessful. So at this point, I'm really glad that we have this board that's willing to do this work. I feel like it's an important step forward for where our board was and who we are now, that we should be really proud of that. So I didn't receive any resolution ideas from the board, so I drafted one myself, and this is it. Yes. A resolution to support more equitable funding for public schools in Vermont, advancing fairness and opportunity in Vermont's education system. Whereas public education is a cornerstone of democracy and essential to the social and economic well-being of Vermont's communities. Whereas every child in Vermont deserves access to high-quality educational opportunities, regardless of geographic location, family income, or property wealth. Whereas current funding mechanisms for Vermont's public schools have resulted in disparities that affect the quality of education students receive. Be it resolved that we call upon state legislatures, local officials, and community stakeholders to work collaboratively to reform public school funding in Vermont to ensure a more equitable allocation of resources. Be it further resolved that any funding reforms should prioritize the needs of historically underfunded schools, address gaps in educational resources, and provide adequate support for all students to succeed. Be it further resolved that we encourage the consideration of alternative funding models, community input, and ongoing evaluation to ensure that educational equity is realized for every student in Vermont. And I'm happy to wordsmith this a little bit in committee if that is the will of the committee. Brian and then Sam. Yep.
So just wanting to get some clarity around this, the process for this is that the Vermont School Board Association is proposing to make their own resolution, and they're asking, this is a question mark at the end of this, they're asking member boards to submit ideas for that resolution, which will get voted on, and then whichever one receives the most votes, or maybe there's more than one, I don't know, will be a resolution that the VSBA makes. So this is not our board making this resolution, it is our board submitting this to the VSBA to consider for a VSBA resolution. Is this correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We hopefully will vote this out of our committee to recommend it for action to the full board. Hopefully the full board on our June meeting will accept it and vote to send it to the VSBA, where it will go to the resolution committee. The VSBA resolution committee will decide, they have a criteria for looking at resolutions. They have a list of accept, take no action, or no thank you. I can't remember what the word is for that. And based on that recommendation, then it will go to the annual meeting of the VSBA, which used to be in person and was quite fun as democracy. It like sometimes took 3 hours to go through these things. And then the members will also have a chance to vote on the resolutions, regardless of the recommendations of the VSBA resolution committee. So that is kind of a long process. It starts now and I think concludes in October. Sam?
I read this over and my concern was that in looking at the many drafts of the education bills coming out of both the House committee and Senate committees, that some of the districting would put all the poor towns in one district. So I would like something here that says economic diversity should be a deciding factor in creating larger districts. I mean, you could say it better. Or I could say it better if I had a couple of days to think about it, but some way of making that something that they just can't take
Right.
Williamstown, Northfield, and Barry and put them together.
Right. Is that something about in that second whereas, right? Every child in Vermont deserves access to high quality education opportunities, regardless of geographic location, family income, or property wealth.
But it doesn't specifically prevent that kind of redistricting.
So, right. Okay, I see. You want to talk about that redistricting.
Must, it should take into a number of factors. I was thinking of actually a policy that it should take in economic diversity, it should take in geographic location, and there's some third thing I can't remember quite what it was. These should be factors going forward that would help children have a more equitable education.
I agree 100%. And I think that sounds like a resolution to support equitable redistricting for public schools. So are we talking, I feel like that's its own resolution.
I'd be happy to draft that.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great, Sam. Brian, does that sound like a good, would you support a resolution about equitable redistricting?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I mean, I assume that will come out in the draft, but what equitable is in the eye of the beholder. So but it sounds like Sam has some ideas. So yes.
Right. So at this point in the process, resolutions are due on June 15th. So it might be unlikely that we will see that resolution come to us again for then approval to the board. So we could, in our minutes now, ask Sam to draft a resolution for equitable redistricting for public schools under Act 73. Maybe that's the title of it. You can send that to us and we can bring that back to the full board at our June meeting and ask them to approve that there.
So just email you both or Jeff.
If you send it to me, Sam, I can send it out and we can kind of look at it over email. And individually, I'll ask for feedback, but we won't do like a
Major thing.
yes. We can individually edit it, but we can't do it on a grouped email chain for open meeting law.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be a little expedited process.
Move quickly and get it out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Great. Ryan? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. There was something I thought where we could tweak it to talk about, we encourage the consideration of alternative funding models. Like, could that be stronger language about moving away from property values as part of, you know what I mean? Or is it vague enough? Like, what is the balance?
I think about containing the costs that are destroying communities, well, not communities, but education systems like healthcare costs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to be that specific, but to say not just the consideration of alternative funding formats, but also a way to contain the costs that are destroying schools.
So maybe be it further resolved that we encourage the consideration of alternative funding models, cost containment efforts.
Cost containment efforts.
Cost containment efforts, community input, and ongoing evaluation to ensure that educational equity is realized for every student in Vermont. Okay, I like that tweak for sure. What about, be it further resolved that any funding reform should prioritize the needs of historically underfunded schools, address gaps in educational resources, and provide adequate support for all students to succeed.
I love that.
Okay. Okay, great. The only thing I might add is that so that zip codes are no longer like a defining factor in student outcomes. But I think that makes sense. Maybe that's our last whereas, right? Whereas current funding mechanisms for Vermont public schools have resulted in disparities that affect the quality of education students receive and education outcomes. I mean, and outcomes, right? Like, I think it's important to talk about and affect the quality of education students receive and student outcomes, or does it make any difference to?
So it is student outcomes, student futures. The career paths open to them if they don't get a decent education. There isn't much to do in their area.
Yeah.
Deadening.
Right.
You could just tag on as respects student outcomes. Make that
So have resulted in disparities that affect the quality of education student receive and student outcomes and their so I just wrote affect the quality of education students receive and student outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything further?
I think this is good.
Good. Yeah. Assisting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And we could send this resolution and a resolution for equitable redistricting. Yeah. Because you're right, Sam, a lot of the models that I've seen about redistricting is like, here are the poor districts and here are the wealthy districts.
Yeah.
We're talking about, they like put, one of the maps I looked at put all of Chittenden County into one district and then kind of just said, well, they can just figure it out. Okay, so sounds like we're in consensus about the next steps. So I would look for a motion to send our resolution to support more equitable funding for public schools in Vermont to the full board as amended.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Sam,
Second.
second by Ryan. All those in favor? I mean, we could have discussion. This is where I feel like the voting gets a little bit silly.
I would say so.
So maybe we could, I mean, and this could probably be a conversation for when Jeff is here too, right? If we're feeling like, no, we're not in consensus about something, maybe then that's where we take a vote, because otherwise I feel like it's, as the chair, I'm not voting. So does that make sense to people if we're feeling like we can't come to an agreement, so we should vote on it?
Yeah, if we're stuck, we have to move something forward or not, then I think we should go back to voting.
Okay. Let's try that and see how it works. So we're moving on to 6.3, recommended policies.
Is it Michael Bolton, a music artist?
Yes, I saw that too.
Kind of love that.
So the next policies that we'll look at to consider recommending to the board will be A23, community engagement and vision, A24, board superintendent relations, A25, role and adoption of school board policies, and A26, board member education. So next time we meet, we'll look at those policies and we can have a more robust discussion about them.
And Tina will make sure she gets that out to you ahead of time.
Yes, and Tina will prepare, you'll see when you get the packet, it'll be very helpful. It'll be set up so we'll look at the old policy and then the new policy will be presented with the amendments. So we'll be able to see, and we can talk through that too until we're comfortable with looking at that. I think that, any questions? Sorry,
This
Sam,
document
yes.
is really nice.
Yes, this is the
Very
audit,
organized.
right?
Yes.
Yep. So the VSBA did a policy audit for us and they compared our policy manual with their policies, the required policies and their recommended policies, and gave us a little note about any action items. So really identifying like where we don't have policies, but maybe we could, and where we need to update policies. And updating policies is making sure that we're staying compliant with the law, which changes
A lot.
very quickly.
Which quickly, yes.
So I think that brings us, unless there's any other questions about 6.3, the SBA report part 2. Okay. Anticipated future policies to review.
We just did
I
that.
think that was part of it. Yep. Ryan, are we feeling good?
Yeah, I did
Yes.
fine.
Okay. So we're at number 8, our next meeting date, June 15th, 6 p.m. at Spalding High School, which will be our regular monthly meeting. And hopefully Jeff will be here. I think we'll have some policies to review.
Mhm.
Okay. At this point, it's 6:48. Are there any closing remarks from our
No.
superintendent?
Well, I'm excited that this policy committee has convened, and I'm sure you'll have a very successful year. I look forward to the next couple of ones too. Yeah, I think those
Yeah.
are going to be good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so too.
Yeah.
Is there any feedback about the carousel arrangement? How do we? I feel like it worked fine, great for
That
us.
seemed fun. I
Yeah.
couldn't really hear those guys.
Yeah.
Good.
Not
That's the main
distracting.
thing. I didn't want too
Not
much activity to happen. Yeah.
All right, 6:48. Are we ready to adjourn?
I moved to adjourn.
Sam moves. A
Second.
second by the other committee member. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
So just a point